Can you imagine opening a text message from your own mother, a woman who is supposed to love you unconditionally, only to read the words, "Don't call or come over. We're done." Done, just like that. After everything, was I wrong for what I did next? For treating her rejection as nothing more than a painful, but ultimately valuable, $42,000 lesson. Tell me if you would have done the same thing. You know, it's funny how life builds up to these monumental collapses, isn't it? Like a slow-motion car crash you can see coming, but are powerless to stop. My story, this whole devastating mess, really began years ago, back when I was just a hopeful, naive kid with big dreams and an even bigger heart. I was the eldest, the responsible one, always trying to keep the peace and make everyone happy. My parents, well, they weren't exactly the picture of domestic bliss. My dad worked hard, but he was emotionally distant, always wrapped up in his own world. And my mom, she was a force of nature, charismatic and charming when she wanted to be, but also incredibly volatile, prone to dramatic outbursts, and a penchant for making everything about her. As I grew up, I became her confidant, her emotional punching bag, her fixer. I was the one she called when she fought with my dad, the one she leaned on when money was tight, the one who always had to be strong for her. It was an unspoken role, a heavy crown placed on my young head. But I wore it because, deep down, I genuinely loved her and believed she loved me back. My siblings, a younger brother and sister, were largely spared the intensity of this dynamic. They saw the fun mom, the generous mom, because I was always there, absorbing the blows, deflecting the negativity. I made excuses for her behavior, convinced myself that her harsh words were just stress. Her unreasonable demands were just her way of showing she needed me. I wanted to believe in the perfect family, the kind you see in movies, and I worked tirelessly to maintain that illusion, even if it meant sacrificing my own well-being. This was especially true when it came to money. My parents were always struggling, or at least, that's what I was led to believe. There was always a crisis, a bill that couldn't be paid, a car repair that was desperately needed, and I, being the responsible one with a decent job, always stepped up. Not just small amounts, mind you. We're talking significant sums. Over the years, it became a pattern, a desperate call, a plea for help, and then I'd transfer the money, always with the understanding that it was a loan, that it would be repaid. But it never was. Each time I asked, gently at first, then more insistently, I was met with indignation, accusations of being ungrateful, or dramatic sighs about how hard their lives were. I'd always back down, ashamed for even asking, convincing myself that family was more important than money. My partner at the time, Alex, saw it happening. They tried to warn me, to open my eyes, but I was so deeply entrenched in this cycle of obligation and guilt that I couldn't see it for what it was. I dismissed Alex's concerns, telling them they didn't understand my family, didn't understand the bond I had with my mom. I was so fiercely protective of her, even as she bled me dry, emotionally and financially. The biggest chunk, the one that really stings, came when I was trying to save for a down payment on my first home. I'd been working extra shifts, living frugally, putting every spare penny into a separate savings account. I was so close, meticulously tracking my progress, dreaming of having a place of my own, a sanctuary away from the constant chaos of my family. I had about $30,000 saved, a significant achievement for me. Then came the call. It was Mom, of course, her voice laced with panic. There was a supposedly urgent family emergency. Something about my dad's business facing ruin, a looming lawsuit, the threat of losing everything. She painted a picture of utter destitution, of them being forced onto the streets, and it tore at my heart. She said they needed $15,000. Immediately, to stave off disaster, my stomach clenched. That was half of my down payment. I told her I couldn't, that it was for my house, that I needed it. But she was relentless, pulling out all the stops, the tears, the guilt trips, the subtle reminders of everything she had supposedly sacrificed for me. "Don't you care about your family?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Are you really going to let us lose everything when you have the means to help?" I crumbled. I always did. I transferred the money, feeling a hollow ache in my chest as I watched my carefully built savings account dwindle. She promised, absolutely promised, that this would be the last time, that they would pay me back every cent as soon as the crisis was averted. Spoiler alert, they never did. The crisis conveniently disappeared after the money was sent, and any mention of repayment was met with a blank stare or a quick change of subject. This pattern continued, smaller amounts adding up, another few thousand for a medical emergency that never seemed to have any paperwork, a few hundred here and there for unexpected bills. Every time, I questioned it. Every time I felt that knot of dread in my stomach. But every time I gave in. Because what kind of child abandons their parents in their time of need? What kind of daughter says no to her own mother? I kept telling myself it was temporary, that things would get better, that they would eventually appreciate my sacrifices. I genuinely believed that my unwavering support, my constant availability, would eventually earn me the love and respect I craved. It was a desperate hope, one I clung to with all my might. I even helped them out with car payments for a while. Another few $1,000s that just vanished into the ether. My relationship with Alex suffered immensely. They grew tired of watching me being taken advantage of, tired of my endless excuses for my family. We fought about it constantly, and eventually the strain became too much, and we broke up. I lost my partner, and for what? For a family that seemed to see me as an ATM with a pulse. So that's the situation I was in, bleeding money, bleeding emotionally, and desperate for a shift. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, what finally pushed me to my breaking point, and how I responded, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have kept giving, hoping for a change? Or would you have drawn a line in the sand? The truth is, the breaking point didn't come in one dramatic explosion. It was a slow erosion, like water wearing away stone, until there was nothing left but dust. The final straw, the one that truly severed the last thread of my loyalty, wasn't even about money directly. It was about something far more insidious, betrayal. My younger sister was getting married, and I naturally offered to help. I poured hours into planning, coordinating, even helping to pay for some of the smaller expenses, genuinely happy for her. I wanted to be a good sister, to be supportive. During the reception, I overheard my mom talking to an aunt, completely unaware I was within earshot. She was complaining about me, about how demanding I was, how I always made everything about myself, and how she wished I was more like my sister, who was so much easier to deal with. Then came the kicker. "Honestly," she whispered, "I don't know why she even bothers trying to help. She's so clumsy. She just gets in the way." Clumsy. After everything, after all the money, all the emotional labor, all the times I put their needs before my own, I was just clumsy and in the way. It was a punch to the gut. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. She didn't just take advantage of me. She genuinely didn't appreciate me. In fact, she actively resented me. All those years, all those sacrifices. And she saw me as a burden, an inconvenience. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the complete absence of love, respect, or gratitude. I walked away from that conversation a different person. The rose-tinted glasses shattered, and I saw everything with chilling clarity. All the emergencies, all the promises, all the emotional manipulation. It was all a carefully constructed charade. I went home that night and finally, truly, tallied up every single cent I had given them over the years. I went through old bank statements, text messages, even scribbled notes I'd made. The number, when it finally stared back at me from the spreadsheet, was staggering. $42,000. $42,000. My down payment, my security, my freedom, all gone, swallowed by their endless demands. I felt sick to my stomach, but also, surprisingly, a sense of grim determination. This was it. No more. I tried one last time to talk to my mom. I called her a few days after the wedding, my voice calm but firm. I told her I'd done the calculations, that I knew exactly how much I'd given them, and that I needed a plan for repayment. I explained, as calmly as I could, how much it had impacted my life, my ability to save, my relationship. I waited for an apology, for some shred of understanding. What I got instead was a chilling silence, then a burst of righteous indignation. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "After everything we've done for you, you think we owe you money? You're our child. That's what family does." The conversation devolved quickly. She accused me of being selfish, ungrateful, and unloving. She threatened to cut me off, to tell everyone what a horrible person I was. I just listened, a strange sense of detachment washing over me. This wasn't the mom I loved. This was the manipulator exposed. A few days later, the text came, the one that started this whole story. "Don't call or come over. We're done." It landed in my inbox like a final definitive blow. For a moment, my breath hitched. This was it, the ultimate rejection from the person I had sacrificed so much for. But then, a strange calm settled over me. There was no more hope to cling to, no more illusions to maintain. The charade was over. My hands moved to my phone, and I typed out a reply. Not an angry one, not a pleading one, just a short, sharp message that encapsulated everything I felt, everything I had learned from this devastating experience. "Thanks for the $42,000 lesson, Mom." I hit send. It wasn't about revenge. It was about acknowledging the cost of my naivety, the value of the lesson I had just paid for. And then I blocked her. I blocked my dad too, and my siblings, who had remained conspicuously silent through all of this. It was a clean break. The aftermath has been surprisingly peaceful in a way. The initial pain was immense, a gaping wound where my family used to be. I grieved, not just for the loss of them, but for the loss of the family I always thought I had. But with the grief came a profound sense of liberation. No more urgent calls, no more guilt trips, no more financial drains. My bank account slowly started to recover. My mental health significantly improved. I started seeing a therapist, working through years of codependency and emotional manipulation. It's a long road, but I'm finally on it. I've reconnected with Alex, and while we're taking things slow, there's a new honesty and trust between us that wasn't there before. The $42,000 is gone, yes, and it hurts to think about. But the lesson I learned about setting boundaries, about self-worth, about discerning true love from manipulation, that lesson is priceless. I'm still learning to navigate a world without the constant presence of my family. But for the first time in my life, I feel truly free to build a life on my own terms. So, that's my story. A painful, expensive journey, but one that ultimately led me to reclaim myself. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you understand the impossible position I was in, subscribe for more stories like this, where people share their deepest truths and toughest lessons. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. What would you have done differently? Have you ever had to cut ties with a toxic family member? I'm eager to hear your perspectives. I'll see you all in the next story.